the truths that I've discovered as a performer is it's not enough to practice the notes and the pieces, the etudes, the scales. You have to practice for the situation. So for example, let's take a classical recital. Okay, you're going to play 5 pieces of music. Sure, at the earliest stages, you're going to work on one section at a time, one piece at a time, maybe one movement at a time. But as you progress in your practicing and as you get closer to the recital, you should be playing entire pieces down. As you get even closer to the recital, you should be playing the entire recital from top to bottom without stops. Going as far as to perform for different people. Ask your colleagues to come in and listen to you. Play at retirement centers or on community concert series. Or just pretend that there is an audience there. Dress up in your suit or your dress or whatever you're going to wear. Walk into your practice room. Bow to your audience. Tune. Look at your pianist, real or imaginary, and go through the entire process of a recital. So often, we perform segments of the music, and we do it for ourselves in a practice room. Performance anxiety is usually anxious because we don't do it enough. If we can become one with the fear, it's not going to be so frightful. So the more you play and the more people you play for, the less of a thing it becomes. If there's one element from this video I want you to take with you, it's understanding that practicing and ultimately performing is not all about physical preparation. It's not about the reed or the embouchure or the vibrato or the ligature or the metronome or altissimo knowledge and all that stuff. Most of what is going to make your performance successful has to deal with the mental aspect. And this starts in the preparatory phase, in the practice room. Years ago, I was flying to a conference, and I did what everybody does. You know, you're in the airport, and you run into the newsstand, and you grab a magazine that you would never, ever purchase. Well, I happened to purchase the Yoga Journal. And in it was an article about mindfulness and meditation by the author Jon Kabat-Zinn. And he had a really, really wonderful article that he presented. And I highly recommend any books on mindfulness that this man has written. But one of the things I remember from this article was he talked about understanding anxiety and depression. He said, depression is fear of something from the past, and anxiety is fear about something in the future. The thing is, something they share in common, neither one of them are tangible. This is a reed geek. It's tangible. I can pick it up, I can drop it. Anxiety is something we don't know is going to happen, but we're fearful might, and it sets us into this negativity. Depression is something about, well, we did this in the past, or this happened in the past, therefore, oh no, what happens if it happens in the future? Here's an example. You go into your lesson and you're going to play Fairling Etude number 4. Well, it's a difficult etude, and you have anxiety, and you're not going to play it very well. You know you're not going to play it very well. Why? Well, because a couple weeks ago you didn't play etude number 2 very well, and it was in an easier key, and it wasn't as fast. See what happened? Something that you did in the past instantly manifested itself and snowballed to the point where you were positive you weren't going to do something in the future. We can go into the practice room and we can sit there and say, I have 3 weeks until my recital and I still can't get this. Well, how do you know that in 2 weeks and 3 days, suddenly a light's going to click on and you're going to get it? You don't. All you know is right now, and spending your time worrying about what might happen and what has happened in the past is doing one thing. It's stopping you from learning and discovering and experiencing now. A useful part of preparation at any stage, again, this can be for a lesson or a gig, anything, is preparing for something unexpected to happen. Okay? We all as musicians like to have a linear path. We want to be able to be in control of every element of our performance. But you know what? Life doesn't work that way. You know, John Lennon used to have a saying, life is what happens to you on the way to making other plans. So too often I see students perform and somebody cries, a baby cries in the audience, or somebody coughs, or somebody's cell phone goes off. and they get upset, and it unnerves them in their performance. You know, John Cage had a piece that dealt solely with the sounds of the world around him. There was actually no physical music created. So we have to try to treat our performances with the same attitude. Things are going to happen. Something as simple as a lesson. Are you prepared to go in and play for your teacher and be aware of the fact that he or she may say nothing about your performance? And you might think it's horrible, but they say nothing. Are you prepared for the fact that it may be a great performance and they pick it apart? Are you prepared for that? And more importantly, are you prepared with the idea that that's what they're there for? They're there to listen to your playing and to say, here's what I think I would do differently. Too often, we practice for the fear of getting criticism from our teachers and fail to understand that that's the reason why we went to school. If we knew everything, we wouldn't be there to get their guidance. So understanding that performances are never going to happen the way that you want them to, and preparing for that, allow yourself to be human. You're going to make mistakes, and I can guarantee you're going to make mistakes on chord changes that you've played a million times, on a solo, in a section you've never had an issue with. Somebody's going to cough, a baby's going to cry, a door's going to slam, a ambulance is going to go by, right in the middle of the slow section of your most favorite piece. It's going to happen. And that's the part that you don't want to be upset about and let it ruin your performance. It's part that you want to savor and enjoy, because those are moments that you're going to remember in your life. So I want to ask you a question. We're on the moment of performance, whether it's in the lesson or we're on the stage at the jazz club or we're doing that first piece in the doctoral recital. Let me ask you this question. What is a performance? It's a presentation of all that hard work. This isn't the time where you go in and you think and you control and you command. It's the time where you let your gift come out. Whereas a performer, you should be sitting back and enjoying the creativity and the beauty of the music with the people that you're working with. Too often, we fall victim to what I call performance self-esteem. You know, somebody wise once said that self-esteem isn't what you think of you, it's not what others think of you, it's what you think others think of you. And too often I see students perform worrying about what I think of them, what their colleagues think of them. I have one student who emphatically refuses to ever play at a saxophone conference. And I said, why? And he said, well, I don't want all those people judging me. That's not why we play music. We play music for the gift of moving people emotionally. I don't think we think about that enough when we perform. Yeah. And guess what? You go to that saxophone conference, you play for your colleagues in your saxophone studio, they're going to be there. They know they've had problems with that same passage, or they will. So trying to play for what you think the approval level will be in others is wasting your attention on focusing on the beauty of creativity. Now, it doesn't really matter what you think in the moments of performance. You know, too often you'll play and you'll say, oh, I don't think that sounded good. It doesn't really matter. It's past. Remember the idea of the depression and the anxiety? It is what it is. The great trumpet player Dizzy Gillespie had a great saying. He says, you know, there are some days you open up the case and it's a good day and you win. And the horn loses. And then there are other days you open up the case and you get the horn out and you play and the horn wins. And then you lose. And then you die and the horn wins. So it doesn't really matter, does it? Now, I know that sounds crazy. Yes, it does. Performances matter. But in the grand scheme of things, in the world that we live in today, how bad is it if we mess up a section of our favorite sonata on a doctoral recital? What political entity is going to fall? What government is going to be overthrown? What person is going to meet their untimely demise? I know music can become such an important part of our identity that it becomes our identity. It's important to remember that we are human beings. We make mistakes. we create. Some days you're going to have a great recital and you can't explain why that piece sounded so good. It has never sounded good in the past. And then there are going to be days where you perform that etude for your teacher and you're going to say, oh my gosh, it sounded so much better upstairs. It happens, and we have to give ourselves credit for being human.